Hello, Warriors. Okay, so we have the ECB out of the way, and as you can tell, Euro didn't like it. So we're going to have another detour here with the dollar popping on this. This is my look. Last week I thought we could get to 2050, but then we had this big bounce on the NFP, and we had a couple of wicks here. So I'm thinking down maybe around 120 next week is a possibility. 120.60. In fact, the daily 50 comes in right around there at 20.75. So, the dollar taking care of business to wash out under the 89.20 low. Good morning, Daniel. Interview is canceled today. We'll had my guest not feeling well. We'll get this done again next week. So anyway, the dollar taking out this low of 89.20, I need it unless we break out over 91.40 to start looking at long positions in the dollar. We've had very volatile action in the silver. I mean, it's you look at the 15-minute chart, what a day trader's market here. So I was looking at it down here, and just to exemplify, and this was a winning trade from 62 back here early in the week, and then I had a BE stop at 62 on the remainder, and got stopped out. I was looking to recommit, um, did not do it, and actually turned my head. I was involved in something else. If you're a trader, sometimes you get sidetracked being in business and you miss things, but I'm sure there'll be another trade. In fact, I'm kind of surprised, even though this was a tremendous move in gold, great scalping markets today. Are we going to make another trip back down to this trend line where I have confluence at 1850? But over today's highs, we're on our way above 1900. So pay attention to today's highs and we take it out. I still think there's a shot for 1965 in the gold before it tops. The caveat being closes back under 1850, something else is going on. And I still feel the same way in silver that we could get a rally back above these highs, 2850. We'll see. I don't want to see it closing back under 2730 under this moving average. So Euro Aussie, you probably think you missed it. And sure, I mean, there's always scalps, but this could be setting up for next week that maybe this was A, B, C for A, and we're in a pullback for B. And then we get C up here, which this line comes in above the 61.8. So I'll be looking for sales sometime next week. The rationale for the sale is, that, and the premise from last Friday is definitely being proved that Aussie is showing much more relative strength than Euro, right? Aussie is still up 3 pips with the Euro down 20. So down here, we'll probably be looking at outright buys in Euro and Aussie, and probably Euro Aussie shorts at that time. Um, Aussie, I still think that I'm going to be able to buy it at lower fib levels, maybe, and this is where patience is really, Tom Petty says it all, the waiting is the hardest part. And really, Aussie's given up very little of its gains from last week. Euro a little heavier. So this is going to be the next area for a potential Euro buy down around this 20.5 level coming up. And the yen, looking at the yen, it's still trying to grind up here. And that's kind of unusual with what's happening in yields, although they're bouncing again today. The formation I teach, and I posted this, it looks like we're going to make a run to above these highs. And these highs come in right around the 110 level up here, 110.40. So that's something I'm going to be monitoring for next week. I don't try and make my weeks on a Friday. So looking at the Aussie, Euro pound back on the downside. Still think that we haven't bottomed here. That's a pretty negative day. So this still favors cable being your preferred long. Okay, and hooray, it's finally happening. We have new contract highs in S&Ps. So, I starting to lose patience. And let me tell you something, guys. When I saw it just, quiet, 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 10 years ago or so, um, I probably would have been considering shorting this market up here. But and had FOMO, being afraid I was going to miss the top. But having tried tops like that, are very important to be patient. I still think there's um, a good shot for my targets up around 4,300. Same thing's happening in Nasdaq. We're almost at new highs in Nasdaq. We have another 100 points, and we could be setting this up. I've been talking about this a long time. I've been sitting on my hands waiting to get short on a third drive here. And I'm going to have to do something about this trading view. So in NASDAQ, going to let it go. We're a couple of weeks away from the solstice and the end of the month, and I'm thinking we'll be at new highs in both of these into that time frame. So something that we have to consider. Looking at this as a trade, I think is going to be a rainmaker. So keep an eye on that. VIX keeps having these ghost ticks. Look at this. I call these ghost ticks. See these and these. And I saw this kind of action beginning in silver last year, where you'd have a sharply lower open. You hardly even saw a trade there at all. And then by the time the candle closed, you had a reversal candle. I mean, you've had them here, 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 here. So, to me, it looks like there's some accumulation going on in the VIX. I'm going to be very interested to see where the VIX is once we head up towards that 4,300 level. And here we go. So this dotted line, wedge line is going to be coming in under 14 now. Looks like in the 13 range. So I'm going to be paying attention to this in the weeks ahead. I think that most likely before June is out, I'll be long some type of VIX product here. So that too is setting up. A lot of this business is waiting for the setups. And I know it's not easy, and there's always something to do. You could always click your mouse, but you really have to wait for the important turns. And I think this is really an important turn setting up. The important turn is some type of high up around 4,300, 4,340, an important high in NASDAQ up around 14.3. And I'm looking for major moves. And once we finally have a dollar low, which looks like it's going to be postponed for another week or so, a big move in the dollar. So I want to be patient and wait for those. Of course, I'm scalping on the side. Maybe the dollar has this moving average 90.79, but I have to imagine that there are so many stops under this low of the move. And maybe I'm just like the rest of the crowd out there waiting for one more low, and it never happens. That wouldn't be the first time that I was looking for one more jiggle in the market without it manifesting. But I'm trying to maintain my discipline and think that there's at least one more low coming here in the market. And I'm going to be able, SQQ is now trading right about at the lows. We are starting to get a little bit of divergence, but I'm looking to be able to buy this under 10 at the 1.27 levels around 972. So that too is a possibility for me going forward. And I do want to talk a little bit about what happened in cryptos yesterday. Not as much action today, but I warned shorts, okay? I talked about the fact that we had a false breakdown in Bitcoin right here. Okay, so we had our breakdown right here. And then once we started getting back inside this channel, I said, well, I don't know if I'd be long, but I wouldn't be short anymore. And that it was the first bullish thing the market did. And it's bullish when you have breakdowns that are negated from the downside and bearish when it happens the other way. So, it's possible that we're looking at a low here in Bitcoin. I know a lot of people were looking for more, but it's very possible. I talked about the outside week being a possibility. There's a blue candle. So it ended up happening. So it was forecasted all the way back at I believe it was 35,000. We got back inside the line. It was 34,000. So if you waited for the signal, you got about a $3,000 lead on Bitcoin. That looks pretty good to me. So it's also a pretty good week. Can't argue with the week. It's a 2-week reversal to the upside. And Ethereum not really responding. I know a lot of people are getting bullish on the cross trade of Ethereum right here. So Ethereum doesn't have the same look. It doesn't look at the weekly. You have a blue candle in Bitcoin, you have a red candle in Ethereum. Okay. So that's what's going on there. Let me take a look at something else that's going on. You have the grains going, Aussie yen. This is going to be an important part of what's going on in the markets is going to be this IWM. Okay, so IWM right here. God damn these guys. Here we go. Okay, so even the IWM is trying to make new highs here. And I'm just going to refresh this. See if that'll do it. So this was something that people were not really looking for quite some time. They were saying that the IWM had peaked, and now we have a new high in this IWM, the Russell. So it's the ETF on the Russell. There we are. So are we diverging up here? Here's a 2-hour. We have a breakout. It's confirming. See this confirmed high? And this looks like a breakout. So, everything's in gear for this blow off, even the Russell. So as long as the Russell stays above this rectangle line, there's more upside left in this particular market. I've been drawing attention to what's happening in Tesla. I just want to, here's Apple. I'm not, I'm not impressed. I want to see where Apple's going to be. Should I be right about targets at 14.3 in the Nasdaq 100? I want to also show Tesla, which is having a decent day today. but you have this descending triangle. And you know what? This used to be the old meme stock, right? This is before memes were memes. And, I think this is going to be a great short when indexes reach targets. It actually measures down to about 300. I talked about Microsoft being able to make another high. That looks like that's in gear. But you know what's going to happen at another high up here. Here's drive one, here's drive two. And we're going to have a three drive in Microsoft at the same time. NASDAQ 100 is most likely up there. And right now it's conjecture that we're going to have a major top in the NASDAQ 100. But I've seen enough of these formations. And in fact, I saw this NASDAQ 100 beginning to develop here. I said, what if this is just drive two? And we get a pullback, which we had, which was shallower than drive one, which diverged up here. And say we have another 400 points into the next week or so, I'm pretty sure that we're not going to confirm up there. And this is going to be a pretty nice looking three drive formation. It shows up even better on the weekly. So far my patience has, it's being rewarded. I guess the only other thing I could have done is I could have gotten long into this third drive to, because I was pretty convinced this was going to happen. But I really think this is going to be an important turning point. So I'm just trying to be patient, and you need to at times preserve your ammunition. You can't fight every battle. You have to choose and pick your battles. And this is going to be a battleground trade for me. It's going to be a campaign trade for me. I think it's going to be a rainmaker. And eventually, I don't think that we're going to take out the COVID crash lows, but I could make a case for 10,000 Nasdaq, maybe 8,000 Nasdaq, and the S&Ps once they get up towards this 4,300 level, I could make a case for 3,000. So I mean, the magnitude of this drop, I don't know what it's going to be. Could it be the new variant that is currently in the UK? That in the middle of the summer here in the US, that there's some type of shutdown because of the Delta variant? Could the market peak on President Biden getting his infrastructure bill done? What's a meeting? Is there going to be any positive outcome with Biden's trip meeting Putin face to face? And so, I mean, these are important. This could be as significant of a high. Just want to give you a comparison as this was. Okay. And this was pretty consequential. The only difference is I don't think it's going to happen and be over in 4 weeks. That once we have this peak, I think it's going to carry us into the fall and be maybe complete in November, something like that. So there can be several waves to trade, but I just want to keep keep you abreast of this. I'm going to be using bearish ETFs along with many S&Ps, etc. And we'll see. By then, you would think that gold would get up to its objectives. Right now, I look at GDX on a weekly basis, and it's trying to roll over. They really haven't acted good in the face of the metals acting good, but I'm still expecting one more high in GDX, okay, along with the gold and the silver. Something else I got right that made silver your preferred long was I talked about that the gold silver ratio was rolling over, and that eventually I think that we're going to move all the way down to under 60 as a possibility for third drive, which is why you're seeing the underperformance of gold compared to silver. Gold's up 0.2%, silver's up 6.6, coming off a little bit from its highs, but silver should outperform during this time period, and maybe we're going to get a move up towards this 30 level for a potential 3 drive. Here's your what Mike Venezia calls best of class in Newmont. And you see this high here in Newmont right here? What kind of high is that? Daniel, you know, if you're still watching me, what kind of high is that? So I want to invite people watching me on YouTube to come into our platform at TradeGate Hub and interact with me, ask me questions. I'm willing to teach. I do teach my methodologies and don't just make trading calls. So for you that aren't familiar with the real simple implicators that most people call relative strength index, this is what you call a confirmed high, that both price and momentum confirmed price by making a new high, which means as a trader, you should be looking to buy a break because markets rarely peak when momentum is confirming the direction of a new high or a new low, which implies that there's another move in Newmont and should happen, side by side with what happens in the S&Ps on their way towards 4,300 or above. You should get this last blast. And you guys have heard me talk about it's all one market, and everyone thinks they're diversifying by being long gold. But, if you look at gold from the COVID crisis, it's been up, right? Okay. You look at S&Ps, they've been up in a more directional basis up until recently. Crypto has been up since the April low. So, and the dollar has been down since the high of COVID, right? So it really is all one market. The only difference is magnitude of moves and timing of moves, but what has happened with all the fiscal and monetary stimulus is that you could be long the world. And I'm saying that we are about to come to an inflection point where the markets are going to revert, have a mean reversion. So this has been blowing up the balloon. There's oxygen, liquidity going into blowing up, bubbles everywhere, except the bond market started to deflate. And what I'm saying is that we're, even if we have, and I do think we are going to have inflation, okay, because you can't raise wages and have it be transitory unless you think that you could hire people and then they're going to stay during a shortage of workers if you cut their salary. So higher wages is not transitory in the inflation narrative. So what we may have is inflation with prices and deflation of asset prices, which is the opposite of what we've had for many years. We've had deflationary forces. That's why the Fed continues to want to get inflation over 2, which they got a pretty good reading today over 3. And while that was happening, you had asset prices go to the moon while other prices were continuing in the disinflationary way. So the worm may be ready to turn by the end of the month. I just want to prepare everyone because it's going to be a new paradigm, in my opinion, for 4 to 6 months once we put this top in. And I know there's cartoons out there say, buy the dip, BTFD, buy the dip, buy the dip, buy the dip. Now, what you're going to want to learn how to do after we reach some of these targets is sell the rip, not buy the dip, but sell the rip. And I believe that's going to happen with a low in the dollar, a high in metals and other commodity prices, and a high in equity prices. So we're only a few weeks away, in my view. Maybe I'm all wet and the S&Ps are going to go to 5,000 without this intermediate term correction, but time will tell. And, I've left it on the court for you guys all week. There have been some decent trading ideas alongside of silver. Really wasn't that active because of the ECB. Still think the metals look good, and they should rally hand in hand with the market. But be prepared that if you thought you bought gold as a hedge for the market, it may hold up better when stocks decline. And that's going to be an important thing, because once we have this correction, I think it's going to be pretty deep. You're going to be able to get long the world again. And some of the asset classes are going to be commodities that are going to hold up the best, even if there is a 20-30% decline in stocks coming around the corner. So I hope I'm adding value to what you're trying to accomplish as a trader. If I am, give me a why. And want to remind everyone that you do the right thing today and tomorrow takes care of itself. High-O silver still looks pretty good to me at 27.86. Let's just look at this, and my targets are to challenge this double top up here. If it's going to happen, it should happen in the next couple weeks into the end of June. And with that being said, don't just count your coins and your bars and your shares and your crypto. Count your blessings. Enjoy working here with everybody. If you're watching on YouTube, I encourage you to register at TradeGate Hub and begin to become accountable by sharing your work and forming a mastermind with me. Okay, so that's going to be a wrap, everyone. I hope you have a great weekend. And that's the time I do my work. So I plan my look ahead, by week ahead, over the weekend when the markets are closed, except for crypto. And you're going to think clearer when you're not in the middle of being a gladiator in the arena and people trying to take you out. So have a great weekend, everyone, and I'll be back with you next week. Good hunting, and thank you very much for your attention. And thank you, Doug. I'm glad you do. Adios, everyone.